What's the fun of doing it quietly?
I was talking to Michelle.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to encourage everyone to take a button afterwards. They're there for the taking. Okay, so just to kind of restate the thesis of our project, the city in our story is a character, and we are proposing a kind of literary conceit where the act of sinking is treated both literally and metaphorically. And over the course of the narrative, people find opportunities in that situation and learn to love it. The structure of the story is told in this section, which can be read both linearly, as it's laid out here, as well as a kind of full network of associations. So the structure of the presentation here is linearly, but then it's kind of remapped here, and you can kind of follow all the arrows accordingly. The story rewards you for a kind of close reading, so I want to encourage everyone to get up there and read the text. There's a number of double meanings, and there's relationships between the text and the image of tonal counterpoints. One version is this: the Geology Management and Flinterland Ontological Resolution Department, abbreviated GM and Ford, measured and cataloged the transformation. The most precise equipment was used. GM and Ford believed that the scale of the social effects would be less catastrophic if the geological process was understood more thoroughly. Their motto: do not measure others by your own yardstick. And there's the structure of the story is such that it's noticed by someone on their daily walk that he's a creature of habit. He's also blind, but then so that his habit is shifted by the shifting of the city, which then prompts people to have to kind of take ownership and take charge of their own city, which is kind of the result later. The structure of the story is also such that in the beginning it's more fragmented, and then towards the end it's more zoomed out of the section, and you can start to see where you've been in various cross moments. Also, the fire hydrant becomes a kind of icon or symbol of the situation. In the way that it's sinking, the infrastructure stays put, the ground and the buildings sink, and the fire hydrant starts to look like almost like a cross or something in various configurations as it becomes a kind of symbol of hope for the sinking city.
And I think just one more thing, thinking about how the city is a character. Like we were trying to approach this as the people that learn to love it. Like they don't just kind of fight back against the city, but they start to find opportunities for how they can kind of reoccupy what's happening to them. So in this kind of like actual downfall of the city, they instead of kind of worrying about it all the time, they find new opportunities within it.
Is this the same content?
Yep. Yeah.
Funny how it reads differently.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I
As
mean,
a linear and fragments, it's much different than as a
Yeah.
collection.
Yeah. That is. I mean, I'm so happy you did this. It's great. Because that gives us that information as well. You know that. Where is the group?
Oh.
You're here. Okay. Right. So, so that in fact it changes. It really changes. Also, it's quite interesting that you're using this technique. When I saw this without the medium, and you didn't pin up the color, it's there into black. It's all fine. But I'm just see when you do this, when it goes around, it actually it's a technique used to explain somebody going through a complicated building.
Yeah.
You know those films, and that it's very interesting as a medium because some of these pages work like that, some don't. Some are your propositions to kind of merge things, put something on top of something else, stack. So I would say that it may not only be about sinking, although I like that thing. Now I came to it, and you made it so. So is that in fact could be stacking not up but stacking down, if you know what I mean, like the coal mines actually work. And that reversal, you know, gives you, you know, that of course we all die for this section, and gives you not just what you get, but it gives you the method. I mean, the method that this could be actually done, and that is the method. And it's very, if you take me, in a sense, and its tradition is clearly a medieval tradition or Romanesque. You know, I would, it would be interesting to kind of expand as we go to, of course, culture of architecture and what these strategies were. Because stacking, comes. You guys know how Romanesque works, different from Gothic. Somebody goes to a trip to see a saint or to visit the place where the saint was, of course, Jerusalem, comes back to a French town and builds a nave. Right? The next one comes back and builds another part. So it's actually a collection of parts which do not go with each other, which Gothic changes it completely. And you have an un-Gothic project. There is a theory. Un-Gothic is kind of, it's not Goth, but it's kind of done in a kind of Goth, it could be a Goth character of thinking and kind of living through that. So, yeah, not to go too long, of course, we'll talk, for me, but also second thing with passing it to me, and I think I'm more talking about the project now than about the actual comic book. If you give us that possibility. So, the second thing maybe I should say the last one, comes to, as the project, what to do to, you see, you're not just inverting gravity, of course bringing land up, which we spoke about Switzerland. But what is interesting that, of course, the section becomes the plan. And this is what this video shows. It's read as a plan, right? Even though the section may not cut through exactly the same mountain. You have to cut in various ways. Because, you navigate. And then also, of course, then the plan concept is shown as a section. So the navigation through that, and you're clearly showing is different than the navigation from these found topologies which are going down. So it would be, in terms of methodology, that that's something that comes up as a strategy. You can do this again. Somebody will steal it. Maybe.
Act fast.
I'm saying that what I think you have also chosen an aesthetics which you navigate now, and you had a reference, and there was this struggle with the text. Text is still very small, and maybe it can be highlighted. There are these kind of weird additions and objects of topologies like this spiral, which could have a Seth Guggenheim down there somewhere. So you seem to be working like that. This work hasn't been done like this for a while. So you're I think that you're updating with your group, of course, updating how this can be digitized, can be pushed further. And,
So how has it? I mean, a lot of this is besides the references you had. A lot of this is archigram, and it's 1960s sort of style, even the collage style, the drawing style. Where's the influence of a digital thought? I mean, how's that affecting? Because this works really well, this format. I mean, I can't stop reading it. I keep going back and reading it again. It's really, I think there's a couple of things that are really super smart, and it's about scale. The fact that every moment within the book is held within the very first page, and then it's revealed through the narrative. I mean, the narrative then frames it in a very witty way. But I'm actually really interested in what Sergeant How is this not just a rehash of the 60s work?
I think what you just said was only made possible by the digital. So the fact that you could zoom in and zoom out like you can in AutoCAD,
Yeah.
but with a story instead of the CAD digital project, I think was only possible with the digital. I don't think that the project doesn't try to demonstrate that as a kind of like new technology and like look what we can do.
You haven't pushed the scale yet. You actually haven't got. You haven't done anything that you couldn't do in analog.
Right.
Like that drawing there, I can draw that drawing,
Right.
and then I can photograph it with a magnifying
Yeah.
lens, and I can get the detail. So there's
Yeah.
no increase to the detail. So you actually haven't
Yeah.
pushed the limit of the scale yet, right? Because I think that's what
Right.
you're saying. I remember the first time I drew in AutoCAD, and I was drawing. It's so stupid, but I mean I was drawing a wall, and was drawing like the blocks in the wall and the airspace, and then I zoomed out and I realized it was an 1/8" drawing, and I couldn't see, or it was a 16th drawing, and I printed it. I'm like, I just spent 2 hours doing stuff that was just stupid, right? because I was this was a long time ago, right? And it was AutoCAD R14, which rocked.
I learned on.
R14,
Yeah.
yeah. R14, yeah, that was huge. I mean, that's when Windows really took control of AutoCAD. R12 was, no, it was R12. R12.
Yeah.
11 to 12 was this huge step forward, right? And then 14 was like the first smooth AutoCAD under Windows, anyway. But it was that, but I could get that. I couldn't do that in analog. I couldn't literally draw that because the pen's not small enough, and when I photographed it, I wouldn't have any more information.
Yeah.
But the zoom, like you're talking about, that would be, I mean, that's just the next, right? So if we get into here, and when this gets detailed, there's actually all this stuff going on back in here that at this scale is just black.
Right.
But at this scale, there's a little bit of it's here because you can see the tiling.
Right.
But actually, I can see the tiling there too. But I shouldn't, right? And so
Yeah.
we're talking
Yeah.
about actually a change of content based on scale,
Right.
which is just really interesting.
As long as you maintain the overall position of the work and aesthetic, that reference back is absolutely critical. And I would agree with my colleague, but I would allow those cues to be quite subtle. Would be my urging to you. I think this is a very successful, very clear statement. I want to commend you and your group for that. I think you deserve that commendation. I would underline Surgeon's advisement about the striving down, because if you look at the argument you're making, that is just altogether logical. Is that it moves from a position where people are being fatalist about the sinking, and then folks are trying to be entrepreneurial about the sinking, and then eventually there's this embrace, right? And one might begin to wonder if, I see there are moments where there's church and other things that are brought into it, and the idea of we bury the dead is a hygienic thing, but it's also a symbolic thing, right? And one might begin to wonder at the end of this, actually, we wouldn't bury the dead, we'd pop them up, right? Because the burying would be for the living, right?
Right here it says rest and play 6 feet underground.
Right, but then so when, right now we landfill trash, but we wouldn't do that
Right.
here at the end, that would actually be on the surface.
Yeah.
And as with the dead, and the most valuable, interesting, powerful spiritual spaces would actually be deep down. You're hinting at that when you talk about the sewers rivaling Venice, right? Which one wonders, and I love that reference, because we know Venice as a sinking city, and your references, they're very smart references throughout this thing. I want you to know that it hasn't gone unnoticed. Well done. Building it down. And I would also say you let your new GM and Ford, another little clever move, you let them off the hook too early, right? Because the way business works is you always have a few entrepreneurs that start it, they're never the ones that become famous. Like, they're the ones that get overridden by more powerful entities who popularize the stuff. I mean, there's a Steve Jobs story. We can have those conversations, but for every one of those, there's 1,000, right, of people who had ideas that just got it taken by something pretty large. And I would wonder, as people turn their attention to the depths and begin to embrace the depths, starting through the entrepreneurial lens and then slowly going into the living and spiritual lens, is how does GM and Ford exploit that? You're GM and Ford, right? Shifting focus, because in the study they're trying, they have a different aspiration than they would in down here.
Right.
So now, yeah, very, very smart. I'll end with that one.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks.
Great work.
I'm dying to see what happens. I can break it.